2-3 days ago, for a good 2 days, I was feeling real low on faith, real confused, really starting to question what I heard from God. I was thinking on a lot of things that God has been speaking to me, wondering, how can God do that? Why would God do that? When would God do that? And really just getting in my head, really doing a lot of overthinking, and not allowing God to be who He is, not trusting that God will provide the things that He said that He would. Like I mentioned in a couple videos ago about last year, December 2020, and being expecting of certain things and them not happening, or even other isolated situations where I know that God spoke to me certain things and they didn't come to pass. And just remembering how disappointed I felt, how let down I felt, how embarrassed I felt, even though nobody really even knew at all but me. I just still felt let down. I began battling in my mind like, well, how do I know that this is not just another test? How do I know that God isn't just using this to show me something else, prove to me something else, make me see something else? And it really put me in a funk. And I hate when I get into a funk because I don't like feeling like I'm not believing. I don't like feeling like I'm doubting God. I don't like feeling like I'm being disobedient. It's just not a good feeling. By that second day, I humbled myself and I really wanted to put my disappointments and my letdowns at God's feet so I could keep moving forward, so I could get back to being excited, get back to having joy. And you know, when you feel disappointed in yourself, when you feel disappointed in God, disappointed in your situation, you think that God is disappointed in you and like you really don't want to go to Him. But I was just like, you know what? I'm about to lay down and I'm about to pray because I don't want to keep feeling like this. So once I laid down and everything and I said, God, I really don't even know what to pray or what to ask for. And He said to me, tell me what's on your heart. So I began telling Him, I'm afraid to be disappointed. I'm afraid to feel that familiar embarrassment. I don't want to be expecting something and then it doesn't happen because of this and that. Like last time, it's one thing to feel disappointed and let down by men, but when you feel disappointed and let down by God, like it's a different type of hurt. It really breaks your spirit. So then God says to me, trust me again. I will not fail you. And I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. And He said it in such a sweet voice. And I'm like, wow, okay. But then it was another sense of fear that came over me once He said that. The next day, I woke up and I had peace again. I had joy again. I was worshiping and I started reflecting on the provision package word that God had been speaking to me. I don't know exactly what the provision package is, but provision doesn't just mean money. Like provision is everything that you need and supply to complete a certain task or to complete a certain thing. And then I started thinking about the word that He gave me when He was saying to me, shall I not pay you back? There was this dream that I had and I was feeling all down and sad, like, is it going to work out? How is it going to work out? And long story short, God began saying to me, shall I not pay you back? Shall I not pay you back? In reference to everything that I've been through, all of the affliction that I endured for His name's sake. And then I started thinking on the word that He gave me when He said scary blessings. At the time that He gave me that word, one of the things that He said to me was, you never know what may happen next. It was in such a, I don't want to say creepy, but it was just in such a mysterious way, and that scared me. You never know what may happen next. And I was like, okay, that's not really cute. That's I'm not finding that really cute. Like, what? I don't know. That scared me. But I just began thinking like, okay, scary blessings. Why would God say scary blessings? He could have said a number of things, but he chose to use the word scary. The definition of scary is frightening, causing fear, uncannily striking, or surprising. Frightening means making someone afraid or anxious. Uncanny means strange or mysterious, especially in an unsettling way. And as I was writing those definitions, it finally fully registered to me why God said scary blessings. Because whatever God is about to bless me with is going to cause fear. It's going to be frightening. It's going to make me afraid. It's going to make me anxious. However, God is going to do these things is going to be in such a strange and mysterious way, to the point it's going to be unsettling. Because some of the things that practically all the things that God has been speaking to me pertaining to now, what's happening next, it's just not settling in my spirit. Like, I don't know, I'm like, huh? It's just really not settling in my spirit. In my journal, I wrote how I've been feeling and the revelation that I got through those definitions. And I said, so at this point, not only am I scared, I should be. The thought of the promise gives me butterflies. Not like, ooh, he cute butterflies, roller coaster butterflies. Like, it's not cute at all. It scares me how I can't wrap my mind around it, even if I tried. It's literally frightening. No matter how hard I try, there's an unsettling in my spirit. It's just not sitting well for me. It's truly strange and mysterious. That's why the more God speaks on it, the more discombobulated I feel, confused and unsettled. But clearly it's meant for me to feel scared and anxious, just not as it relates to God's power, ability, and timing. There's a reason why what God is about to do should scare you. There's a reason why what God is about to do should overwhelm you. There's a reason why what God is about to do should cause you fear, should frighten you. There's a reason why what God is about to do should cause awe and shock. Because God is not doing an ordinary blessing. All good things come from the Lord, and all good things are good in the Lord. But if this word is for you, God is truly about to do some very unusual things in your life. Just like I said in that journal, I cannot wrap my mind around it, even if I tried. Even if I try to make sense of what it is that God is doing, how he's going to do it, the timing he's saying he's going to do it, it does not make sense. However, what should not scare me, what should not scare you is God's ability, God's power, God's timing to perform what it is that he is speaking. It is a thin line between the blessing causing you anxiety, the blessing causing you discomfort, the blessing causing you shock, the blessing causing you fear, versus you having anxiety whether or not God can perform this blessing. Fear surrounding if God will perform this blessing. When you know for a fact that God has spoken this blessing to you, you should not be constantly on the edge of your seat wondering, am I going to fumble the ball? Is God going to change his mind? Is God going to somehow disqualify me? Is God going to go back on his word this time? It didn't work out last time. Is it not going to work out this time? You should not have fear surrounding God's ability, surrounding God's power, surrounding God's control, surrounding God's authority. This is a very tricky time because the enemy understands this concept of why you are feeling afraid of the blessing. God did not call it scary blessings for no reason. Like I said, he could have used any word he wanted to use, but he chose to use scary blessings. This blessing is going to scare you. The manifestation of this blessing is going to scare you. The timing of this blessing is going to scare you. How I perform this blessing is going to scare you. However, The enemy wants to try to confuse you into doubting. He wants to strategically flip that anxiety, that fear, and place it towards God and not what it is that God is doing. And I know it's going to be some people that say, well, the Bible says be anxious for nothing. Yeah, be anxious for nothing. But how can you not be anxious as it pertains to the glory of God? How can the glory of God not scare you? Who is prepared by how the Lord can move? Do you think when those people saw those quails falling from the sky, food falling from the sky, that it didn't scare them? God is not no ordinary God. God is not no put him in your pocket, pull it out type of God. God cannot be contained. God cannot be held back. There's a difference between doubting and being scared, being anxious. There's a such thing as godly fear, godly anxiety. Every time I start having visions, every time I get deep into worship, every time God gives me a big prophecy for somebody, I can't help but to feel a sense of godly fear and anxiety. But if I'm not careful, I can go from feeling fear and anxiety surrounding being under the glory of God to doubting whether or not I'm hearing from God. And that's not of God. Godly fear, godly anxiety should never cause you to doubt. Any form, there is no godly doubting. Any form of doubting is not of God. Another example of this is I want to hear God's voice audibly again. Sometimes I pray and I'm like, God, I want to hear your voice again. But then I'm standing in a room by myself. It's nobody at the house with me. And I'm like, you know what? But if this is not the right time for you, then feel free to do it when it's the right time for you. In all actuality, I'm saying when it's the right time for me, because I start to feel a little fear. I start to feel some anxiety, because it's something about the glory of God. And also when I first began to feel peace, I had never truly been at peace in my life. I don't even think since I was in the womb until last year, I started to get a sense of peace. And when I would feel a peace coming over my body, it would be so traumatic. It would literally send me into a panic attack, an anxiety attack, just to feel the true peace of God over me. Because it's something about the glory of God that causes fear and anxiety. Don't think that just because you are afraid of the blessing, that God is somehow displeased with you. Like I keep saying, God wouldn't have called it scary blessings for no reason. There's a reason why you feel afraid. But despite this fear you feel towards the promise, despite the fear that you feel towards God, when he says, okay, now move, baby, you should be ready to move. It ain't no room to be doubting. When he said, okay, now make this phone call. Now go apply for this job. Now go apply for this business grant. Now go apply for this car. Go apply for this home. There shouldn't be any room to worry. There shouldn't be any room to doubt. But it most definitely will be room for godly fear and godly anxiety. It most definitely will be frightening, but through your fright, do it anyway. And I know the people that this message is for. Through your fright, you're gonna do it anyway. Through your confusion, you're gonna do it anyway. God says you wouldn't be afraid if it was not huge. You are afraid because the blessing is impossible without God. You are confused. It is unsettling. It feels strange and mysterious because this is truly a blessing that man cannot do alone. It's important right now, more than ever, to allow God to be your comfort. Like I spoke about in that new life video, what you are experiencing is traumatizing. There is even a sense of traumatization that is godly. There is a sense of panic that is godly. If you do not remain under God's wing, if you do not remain closely knit to God in this time, your anxiety, your fear is going to turn into doubt. If you start to pay too much attention to what's going on around you, the people that are around you, because listen, it's a reason why all of a sudden you start having all these crazy dreams. It's a reason why all of a sudden your account is in the negative. It's a reason why all of a sudden your kids are acting up. They're uncontrollable. It's a reason why all of a sudden your family members, your mother-in-law, your cousin, your sister, they just can't seem to keep their mouth off of you. They can't seem to leave you alone. They can't seem to stop stirring up all these problems. People coming back talking about their old emotions towards you and towards what you did to them, exes. And it's the reason why the enemy is fishing for a way to throw you off your game. Because just a few seconds from the presence of God can cause your anxiety to turn into doubt. If you're not careful, one petty comment can turn your anxiety into doubt. If you're not careful, one notification from your bank can turn your anxiety into doubt. Because the perfect strategy the enemy has right now is to make you feel like what you are believing for is impossible. And to be honest with you, it comes to a point where the enemy runs out of so many lies that he got to work off the truth. Because it is impossible. It don't make sense. It's no way you can do it. But if you could have done it, it would have been done by now. It's God's turn. This is all of God and none of you. This is all of God's provision and none of yours. Having godly fear, having godly anxiety can cause you to feel uncomfortable, but it's a different type of uncomfortability when the uncomfortability stems from doubt. When it's stemming from doubt, it's a whole different type of uncomfortable. But just like I've been saying in my last two videos, there is a knowing that this is the time. When I laid down to pray that prayer, I had just read Psalm 94. And in Psalm 94, verse 19 says, "When doubts filled my mind, your comfort gave me renewed hope and cheer." Another version says, "When I worried about many things, your assuring word soothed my soul. When the cares of my heart are many, your consolations cheer my soul. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy." The King James Version says, "In the multitude of my thoughts within me, thy comforts delight my soul." If I'm being honest, although doubting is very uncomfortable, doubting is in a way a security blanket. Because when you're doubting, you feel like you are prepared for the unknown. You feel like, well, if it doesn't work out, at least I'm already prepared for the worst. I've experienced the worst outcome before. It wouldn't be the first time. At least in my doubt, I won't be so surprised and shocked when it happens this time. But it's something about when God's soothing word pours over your soul, removing all doubt, removing all fear surrounding whether or not he is able, whether or not he is capable, that puts you in a scary position. Because the blessings truly are scary. Per the definition of frightening, making someone anxious, making someone afraid. When God soothes your soul and replaces that doubt with peace, it instantly brings fear. It instantly brings a godly anxiety. Because you go from, I don't think it's possible, there's no way it could be me, to, God, I know you're going to do it, but I just don't know how. God, I know you're going to do it, but I truthfully don't even know exactly what doing it is. It takes you from wallowing around, looking crazy, looking defeated, to constantly walking around being afraid. Jesus. Constantly being afraid that all of a sudden that thing is going to come slapping you in the face. All of a sudden it's going to jump out at you and catch you by surprise. You have to constantly be looking over your shoulder. You don't want to think about it, but then you do have to think about it because you are afraid. Because you are frightened. You don't know what may happen next. Just like God said to me, you never know what's going to happen next. You never know what's about to pop out at you. You never know when you're going to go to bed broke and wake up with your bank account on full. You never know how I'm going to turn around and move in your life. You never know. You never know how all of a sudden you're going to wake up to 10, 20, 30,000 additional subscribers, additional followers. You never know how you're going to go to sleep with only 2 orders and wake up with 1 million orders. You never know. There's an anxiousness. There's an unsettling surrounding only servicing 3 clients a week to 200 clients calling you. To go from, well, I'm going to need a $20 deposit to, well, you know what? If you don't show up, 10 people want your spot. 10 people want your place. There's a certain type of overwhelm when everybody disqualified you. So much so that you disqualified yourself. Then all of a sudden you wake up and realize that it was you all along. All of a sudden you wake up and realize all of that toiling was never in vain. All of those tears were never in vain. All of that pain was never in vain. Not only was it never in vain, but there's a reward that comes with it. And the reward is scary.